The fluorescent lights of 3rd Avenue Precinct buzzed like dying insects. Julia Miller's shoes struck the linoleum in a rhythm that matched her pulse. Fast, furious, final. She hadn't changed out of her silk pajamas. The hem was soaked from the rain she'd driven through. Her phone, still warm from Lucy's call, was clenched in her left hand. Officer John stood behind the counter, his face draining of color the moment he saw her. John, stammering. Judge Julia. Julia, voice like a gavel. Where is she? John's eyes flicked to the hallway. His hand froze halfway to the keyboard. John, waiting room. We haven't booked her yet. Detective Sergeant Andrews. Julia is reviewing the case with her abuser. I know. She pushed past him. The air smelled of burnt coffee and bleach. Her thumb throbbed. An old burn scar. 32 years old, flaring like it remembered. She pressed it into her palm until the pain grounded her. Scene 2, waiting room. 3:09 a.m. Lucy sat on a plastic chair, knees drawn to her chest. Her sweater sleeve had ridden up, revealing a constellation of bruises. Fresh purple, yellowed green, finger-shaped. When she saw Julia, her face crumpled. Lucy, a broken whisper. Mom. She stumbled into her mother's arms. Julia felt the tremor in every bone. Julia, soft, lethal. How long, Lucy? Sobbing. I couldn't tell you. You spent your life saving women like me. I didn't want you to think I'd failed. Julia pulled back the sleeve. The bruises trailed like a map of violence. Julia, voice cracking. You didn't fail. He did. She turned to John, who hovered at the door. Julia, take me to Richard. Scene 3, flashback. 32 years ago, a small house in Queens. 1,800 words of visceral memory. Julia was 28, 8 months pregnant. The kitchen smelled of burnt toast and fear. Mark, slurred, holding a cigarette. You think you're better than me? He grabbed her wrist. The cigarette hovered an inch from her thumb. Julia, pleading. Mark, the baby. Mark, the baby will learn who's in charge. The cherry pressed down. Skin sizzled. Julia screamed. A sound swallowed by the walls. Cut to 3 nights later. Julia sat at the table, thumb wrapped in gauze. Mark slept on the couch, TV flickering. She opened a notebook. Diary, VO. Tonight I decided I will become a judge, so no other woman has to choose between her child and her life. She wrote until dawn. Every word a vow. Part 2. The system versus the scar. 3,200 words. Scene 4. Andrew's office. 4:45 a.m. Richard lounged in a chair, bandage pristine on his forearm. Andrews leaned back, sipping coffee. Richard, smooth. She lost it, Andrews. Knife came out of nowhere. I just defended myself. The door slammed open. Julia entered like a storm. Richard, smile faltering. Julia, didn't expect. Julia, to see me. You should have. She stepped forward, raised her left hand. The burn scar caught the light. Julia, this is what a real victim looks like, Richard. Not your staged cut. Andrews blinked. Richard's mask slipped. Julia, you cut yourself. Lucy fought back. And you thought your country club friends would bury it. She turned to Andrews. Julia, full forensic exam. Now, or I sue you, the precinct, and every officer who touched this case. Scene 5. Hospital examination room. 6:12 a.m. Dr. Roberts lifted Lucy's shirt, gasped. Dr. Roberts, cigarette burns. 3 months old. Fractured ribs. 2. Ligature marks. Lucy stared at the ceiling. Lucy, whisper. He said it was discipline. Julia stood frozen. The burns matched her own scar. Julia, to herself. He used the same weapon. She took Lucy's hand. Julia, I'm going to end this. Like I should have ended mine. Scene 6. Flashback. The night Julia left Mark 1,400 words. Mark passed out drunk. Julia packed a single bag. She kissed her sleeping 3-year-old daughter, Elaine, on the forehead. Julia, whisper, I'll come back for you. She left with $47 and a bus ticket. The burn on her thumb pulsed with every heartbeat. Cut to 10 years later. Julia, now Judge Miller, sentences her first domestic abuser. The defendant smirks. Defendant, you don't know what it's like. Julia, cold. I know exactly what it's like. She slams the gavel. The sound echoes like freedom. Part 3. The Truth Unburned. 2,700 words. Scene 7. Precinct Interrogation Room. 7:30 a.m. Richard's lawyer, Robert Clark, paced. Robert, my client is the victim. We have Julia entering. A flash drive. She placed it on the table. Julia, 3 months of recordings. Every threat, every blow, every time he said, no one will believe you. Andrews plugged it in. Richard's voice filled the room. Recording. Your mother can't save you. She's just a washed-up judge. Richard lunged. John restrained him. Julia, to Richard, you chose the wrong mother. Scene 8. Hospital rooftop. 8:15 a.m. Julia stood alone. The city sprawled below. Millions of windows. Millions of secrets. She opened her phone. Old photo. 28-year-old Julia. Thumb bandaged. Holding newborn Lucy. Julia. VO. I thought if I buried it deep enough, it would stay dead. She dialed a number she hadn't called in 20 years. Voice. Women's Shelter Hotline. Julia, this is Judge Julia Miller. I need to make a statement. Scene 9. Press conference. Courthouse steps. 11:00 a.m. Cameras flashed. Julia stood at the podium. Lucy beside her. Julia, 32 years ago, I was burned with a cigarette for serving dinner late. I left my abuser with $47 and a promise to my daughter. Gasps. Lucy squeezed her hand. Julia, I became a judge to protect women I couldn't save, including myself. Tonight, my daughter Lucy was arrested because she fought back. She held up her thumb. Julia, this scar is my credential, and tonight it testifies. Part 4. The Final Burn. 1,800 words. Scene 10. Trial Day 7. Cross-examination. The public defender sneered. Defender, Ms. Miller claims abuse, but where's the evidence from her childhood? Lucy stood. Lucy, right here. She rolled up Julia's sleeve. The courtroom gasped. Faded knife scars. Burn marks. Lucy, my mother survived the same monster. She just had a different name. Richard's face collapsed. Scene 11. Verdict. 3:42 p.m. Foreman, guilty. On all counts, Richard screamed as guards dragged him away. Richard, this is a conspiracy. She's using her past, Judge Hayes, to expose yours. Sit down. Scene 12. Epilogue. 6 months later, Lucy's new apartment. Lucy hung a framed photo. Julia, thumb raised, smiling. Lucy, to Elaine. She turned her scar into a gavel. Julia entered, carrying groceries. Julia, I brought ice cream. And something else. She handed Lucy a book. The Burn That Healed. A Mother's Justice. Lucy, you wrote it. Julia, we wrote it. Every bruise, every recording, every tear. They hugged. Outside, the city lights flickered on. Julia, VO. The system failed me once. It will never fail another daughter. Fade out. Themes expanded. Generational trauma. Julia's silence enabled Lucy's shame. Her revelation breaks the cycle. The scar as symbol. From shame to strength. From victim to victor. Systemic reform. Julia's press conference leads to mandatory forensic exams in DV cases. Redemption. John quits the force. Starts a victim advocacy program. Andrews is suspended. Visual motifs. Burn scar. Close-ups every act. Throbbing in pain. Glowing in triumph. Gavel. Julia's thumb becomes the gavel in the final shot. Fire, cigarette burns. Sunrise, city lights. Fire as destruction and rebirth. Word count breakdown.